The Hustleshare podcast is sponsored by One CFO, the Philippines' leading fractional CFO services provider for startups, scale-ups, and SMEs. Experience the power of tech-enabled, efficient, affordable, and expert-led fractional CFO services. Let One CFO handle your finances so you can focus on growing your business. Book your free CFO consultation today.
This episode of Hustleshare is brought to you by PLDT Enterprise, your partner that remains committed to your success. If you're loving stories of growth and grit, don't miss ROI to Success, a series powered by PLDT Enterprise that dives into real digital transformation journeys of Filipino businesses, from MSMEs to industry giants. Listen to the latest episodes and learn how PLDT Enterprise can power your business too. Visit pldtenterprise.com to explore solutions built for your success.
People like myself, we would have this idea of what the Philippines was. And after college, I said, you know what, I gotta go myself. So I booked a flight, spent a month and a half in the Philippines, and I said, my goodness, this is where I belong. This is where my people are. This is where my blood is. This is where
How young were you
when
when this
I was
happened?
22.
Okay.
So before that, I'd never gone.
Okay.
You know, we had done trips. A lot of my family, like, you know, for the Filipinos, everyone has family in LA, New York, Toronto, Vancouver, pretty much.
Manila 2.0.
Exactly. So we'd go down to LA often, and you know, all my cousins and stuff were there on my dad's side. So that was kind of the thing. I was a Lakers fan growing up.
So you were Mr. Worldwide before Pitbull was.
Oh man, I loved it, man.
Welcome to Hustleshare, the podcast that features the daily grinds of unique hustlers around the world to show not our differences, but that our hustles are very much alike. Now here's your host, Ron Baetiong.
Welcome to the latest episode of the Share Podcast. It's a brand new year. This year we're turning 7, but there's going to be massive changes over how we do things in Hustleshare, and this is a big hint. Because at 7, you know, when you're a kid, you know, turn 7 is a milestone, and you're kind of forced to now level up. Now, for the longest time, Hustleshare has been a product of audio, right? And slowly but surely, we've been doing video. At least in the pandemic era, we're doing it in my Zoom and my old ass background that's never changed. Only my face changes. But today is going to be very special because for the year, for our first in-person recording, is one of our investors and the most prominent men in the startup ecosystem in the Philippines. So let's welcome to the show the founder and venture builder, I want to be accurate here, of Infi Group as their chief venture officer, Mr. Julian Legazpi. Welcome to the show, broski. How's it going?
Good to see you, man. A long time coming. Finally.
I told you we were gonna do this shit. It's just gonna be again. Sorry, my last year I would grade myself a C+.
No.
In Hustleshare.
Hustleshare.
I obviously didn't do that much to really push the tempo, but I'm here to recoup all of that.
Push the tempo.
Push the tempo.
Chauncey Villa style.
The whole time here. But again, super happy to have you here.
My pleasure.
Long time coming. But I got to ask you the $1 million question. Julian?
Yes, sir.
What's your hustle?
My hustle. I am in venture capital, private equity, in a kind of a middle space in venture building. I think we'll go through a little bit later of our thesis within our group of what that means. But we build, we scale, we invest in companies all across Southeast Asia, India, what we call emerging Asia. I'm a multiple-time entrepreneur. I'm always looking for new businesses, starting it myself with the fund, et cetera, and always looking to meet hustlers like you, my friend. You know, hustlers like you.
Oh, strugglers.
No, hustlers and strugglers. I like it. The same thing, right? Same thing, right?
Yes, and just a very thin line. That's amazing. And again, long time coming. There's not a lot of VCs that are out there, and VC as a business model is in a very uncharted territory right now because of the economy and also the nature of the business. And we'll talk about that later. And how that works. But again, you're an entrepreneur, you're a hustler, and you're also a Pinoy at heart, proud, right?
I'm super proud.
Again, I want to now understand your origin story. Before we talk about that, I need you to buckle up. You won't hear it here, but in your heart you will.
Grabe.
Because we're going to have to go all the way back to rainy ass Pacific Northwest with with the Sasquatches and the vampires up north. Because we're going to have to ride the Hustleshare time machine. All right. Now, again, we're going to go all the way back because obviously you're super Pinoy and you are proud to be Pinoy.
Super.
But you are not born and raised here, right? So walk me through being a Canadian or a Canuck.
As they say.
You're born and raised in Vancouver, but raised as a Filipino. What was that like?
Well, I mean, Vancouver, Canada in general, I would say, compared to other places, a great place growing up. I think I grew up along a very multicultural background. I grew up in the suburb of Vancouver, if anyone's been there before. Vancouver is a beautiful city.
Yep.
There's a very diverse population, a lot of Filipinos too.
Yep.
Did my bachelor there. I did grad school in Canada. But, you know, for me, the kind of penultimate moment was when I was like just after college, my bachelor. And, you know, as a Filipino-Canadian, or let's say a Phil-Am or Phil-Can, let's say, we all have this kind of like vision of the Philippines. It's a different culture entirely. We have this vision of the Philippines when you're in there and you're watching TFC, you're listening to your mom or your tita, whatever, talking about the homeland.
Right.
And it's always a bit mixed bag. It's the kind of the chismes, et cetera, et cetera. And so growing up, I think a lot of people like myself, we would have this idea of what the Philippines was. And after college, I said, you know what, I got to go myself. So I booked a flight, spent a month and a half in the Philippines, and I said, my goodness, this is where I belong. This is where my people are. This is where my blood is. This is where
How
everything.
young were you when this
I was
happened?
22.
Okay.
So before that, I'd never gone.
Okay.
You know, we had done trips. A lot of my family, like, you know, for the Filipinos, everyone has family in LA, New York, Toronto, Vancouver, pretty much.
Manila 2.0.
Exactly. So we'd go down to LA often, and you know, all my cousins and stuff were there on my dad's side, so that was kind of the thing. I was a Lakers fan growing up, so all the kind of, you know, I sing, dance, and play
Not
basketball.
even a Grizzlies fan?
I was a Grizzlies fan, and I was heartbroken when they left. Oh my God, that was the saddest moment. You know, when Mike Bibby and anyway, I want to go through that. Not for a different podcast in basketball.
Yep.
But so I graduated in business and finance, and marketing. Then I did grad school, and that program took me kind of around the world. I lived a bit in Taiwan. I lived a bit in Austria. Ended up getting a job in Austria, which is a really cool experience, living in Europe for about 3 years. Amazing company. Then that company pretty much sent me around the world. So I traveled everywhere with that company, and Middle East, Africa, Latin America, Asia, of course.
So you were Mr. Worldwide before Pitbull was.
Oh man, I loved it, man. I think they just needed someone to just go to places that no one really wanted to go, and I'm like, I'll be happy to do it. 25, 26 years old, it was the best job ever. So learned a lot. Great environment. Also understanding that culture, Austrian German culture, was really cool. Kind of a way to grow my own career. Then eventually I moved to Indonesia, to Jakarta, to open up an office there. Moved to Singapore, got promoted a few times, set up a factory here. That was a really cool moment. 2016, we built our first factory. We did a joint venture here in the Philippines, and we produced our motorcycles, our products here actually.
KTM.
Yeah, with KTM.
This is where you met Iba.
That's right.
There
That's right. So
biker ass Iba who never ages.
Oh man, that was a really cool experience. You know, putting that deal together. Working with the government bodies that were necessary to get the relative licenses, and then eventually to build a factory, which is amazing. We had great partners with Ayala, and we could not have asked for a better team. So I lived here for a couple of years to set up the factory, then moved back to Singapore, and then after that, I left that company. I think it was time, and for me, my logic was, I'd always been entrepreneurial. I've always wanted to kind of to go in this way, and I think
itch has always been there.
I think there's no such thing as really a part-time entrepreneur. So I told myself, okay, trying to start ventures on the side, I got to do this full-time. So I left 2020 until now. I've been finding my own hustle, finding my own way, starting businesses, failing at businesses, getting better at business, investing in businesses, and here we are now.
Amazing. Now, but before we talk about again each and every stop, and I love that you already outlined the whole worldwide journey. You know, like Santa Claus going to every possible city and doing hustle there. But every hustler always had an inspiration growing up, right? And I have a lot of Filipino-Canadian friends who really describe the influences that they've had growing up. What are the first few influences that you've seen in terms of hustling, and how did that get entrenched into your hustle, not maybe directly or not knowingly, and you just hindsight look back like, hey, shit, that's something that I probably got from someone. What was that like? And I want to understand also deeper that perspective of the Philippines from the Phil-Canadian POV. Because I go to the US every once in a while, more frequently before, not anymore right now, not in this administration. Okay. I don't want to get iced. Okay. But I want to understand that POV. So what were the first few influences that you remember that you still bring along with you today?
Well, maybe for lack of a better word, I think one of the first things I read when I was younger was Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Robert
I think I read this when I was like 13 years old.
Wow.
And the story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad itself, the content is what it is. But what I kind of got out of it was there were two types of mentors that I could have saw. And my father and my family, they were immigrants in Canada. They worked extremely hard, did very well for themselves.
First generation, was it?
First generation,
Wow.
yeah. They raised 4 incredible kids, put us all through school. Retired now, but they did it in a very corporate way. My dad rose the ranks. Stable. And nothing wrong with that. It was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But a personal thing was, of course, when I was in my teens, my dad, the company itself retrenched. We potentially could have moved to a different part of Canada or the US. But my dad didn't want to do that because he had 4 kids. We were all settled. He's an incredible man, one of my hero of mine, and someone I look up to and love dearly, will always love dearly. But in high school, I remember we went to see my dad's barcada, some of the barcada in LA. And I remember there was one of his friends who was not necessarily the smartest in his school in the Philippines, but he came to America and he got really into real estate. And I remember one time we did this like seminar somewhere, just among the friends, because we were all catching up. They're all catching up. They hadn't seen each other in 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
And he started talking to us about real estate investing and how just all these different things that he was doing, just different ways of looking at life, different ways of looking at business. And that for me was the first spark where I thought to myself, there is a way to do it in a corporate way. And I remember my dad would get up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. He was in finance, and
wow,
he would head to the city, and he would come back at a certain time, and it was great. But when I met my Tito Ray, basically, I said, wow, like this is different. He had a different way of looking at things. It was not straight. It was always a creative way of doing things. I remember I was so enthralled. I was in the front of the seminar, I guess you could say it, among friends. And I was just constantly asking questions at 13, 14 years old. And then I remember I got a book, and it was something like, this book was like the guide to entrepreneurship. I remember it was a joke my dad gave me, and it was just a blank book, basically. It was just literally, it was nothing in it. And I kind of just made me start to realize that. And I had that itch since then. Even in high school, I was trying to build things entrepreneurially. In college, I definitely tried to build a bunch of things. So I've always been in that way. And then, of course, I love finance. So, of course, I studied the greats. I studied the Druckenmillers and the Warren Buffetts and the Peter Lynch's, et cetera, understanding investment philosophy. But it really rooted in that of like what this looked like.
Yeah.
And it really stuck with me. To this day, it still stuck with me.
That's an inception moment, and that will never leave you, because when that's there, man, you can never unscratch that itch anymore.
Cannot.
Right? Just when you reach that moment, I had similar instances before, like, oh man, it just clicks.
Yeah.
That, hey, this is what I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right? Contrarian is normal, apparently, because in an environment where everybody's trying to fit in the box.
Yeah.
And LeBron says always that fit the fuck out.
Fit
right?
out.
He said fuck.
Right? I guess we're here. Okay.
But he said fit the fuck out. You be you, and there's obviously consequences and a lot of challenges in between for that. But you got to be able to be comfortable with that uncertainty. Now, with that uncertainty, obviously that brought you around the world, and I'm very, very curious. Been around, and man, I wish we can go through every single stop here, but I'm curious on the skill stack, because at the end of the day, you cannot get this far, especially in entrepreneurship or investing and whatnot, if you don't become a polymath.
Yeah.
Right. You have to have multiple things that you're good at and mold that together to give yourself a chance for success. Those no guarantees. It's still going to be, a big gamble, but at least your chances are better.
Yep.
If you become good at multiple things. Walk me through those key stops that you remember going through, and what did you learn from each stop that you still carry with you today?
Sure. I think, I'm a big advocate of school. I think that the definition of that has changed a little bit now with everything that's going on. But I think in school, it teaches you certain hard skills and fundamentals. In finance, you can learn that on yourself, or you can learn it in school. It helps. But one thing that generally speaking, but traveling I lived in 7 cities, 7 countries rather, multiple cities, is confidence.
Yes.
I think as a young person, dealing with different cultures, being able to put yourself in that situation is something you can't teach in school. You can't teach putting yourself in an environment among in a boardroom with Germans and Indians and Chinese or whatever it may be. And that for me was probably one of the biggest things, which I tell everyone, if you're able to travel at a young age and really get yourself out there, that really will go a long way. Because, at the end of the day, we can go into this later on, especially now with AI and stuff, these soft skills are going to be important. You cannot AI out personality, sales ability, negotiation, getting people to like you, engage with you.
Yeah.
This is something that you simply cannot teach. You have to do it and be out there. And for those that are introverted, the more you have to do this and put yourself in that comfort zone. So when I was in Austria, for example, obviously, Germans or let's call it Central Europeans have a kind of a there's a certain way of they do things, which is a very good structure. So that was a really good way where I learned a lot about organization, structure, getting things done in a certain way, being quite direct. That was a really cool proving ground. But especially when I lived in Taiwan, I learned a lot about how things are there. And of course, Southeast Asia, traveling around. Each country is a little bit different. So culture, confidence are things that you just simply cannot teach. And the more you meet, and when I travel to the Middle East or meet with African countries or Latin America, everyone's a little bit different. But having the confidence and the ability to get people to like you, get people to work with you, that I think is the greatest skill that I could have ever asked for with traveling. I could not have done that. Even growing up in a multicultural society, it's different when you're in a situation of business.
Totally. No, but I want to go deeper on that.
Sure.
Because confidence is something that everybody wants to have, but everybody has a different starting point.
True.
Like I look super confident now. I probably am.
Yeah.
But I was hella scared a lot when I was younger.
Yeah.
Probably till college, early journey into entrepreneurship and sales. But I always front and put bravado. I overcompensate.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that looked like, but eventually it became normal. I want to understand that process of you building confidence, because for me, at least my journey, I want to see that what was like for you. That was like for you. It started with building competence first. Because the product of repetitive competence, obviously, when you're good at it, I come in with a big ass confidence and I got this.
Yeah.
I'm here to deliver.
Yeah.
But if you are unsure yet of what or how good you are, say compared to your peers or what the standards are out there, that's where doubt creeps up. And a lot of doubt is the killer of a lot of dreams.
True.
Right?
True.
Make people hesitate, don't even take a shot, and they will never be able to build that confidence. Because talent without confidence, obviously, talent without competence will never equate to confidence.
Yeah.
What was that journey for you like, and how did you decipher that shit? I'm coming in with big dick energy now, and I'm pretty confident that I walk into the door, I have a good shot at being liked, because you just attract that eventually, right?
Sure,
What was that like for you?
Well, I think that's a really good question. I think let me add to that. I think you're right. The competence does help. It's one of the ways that you can feel confident, because I'm good at something, and therefore I feel like I'm going to be better than most people in this room, and therefore I have something to say.
Yeah.
But another way to do it, which I think is a more organic way, and if I were to go back in time, I would have maybe adjusted this style, which is just not to be afraid of failure and rejection. I think it's important. I think it's important also to put yourself in a situation where you have multiple times to fail. So I think if I were to talk to a young person, or when I do a little bit of mentoring here and there, It's about putting yourself in a situation, having a boss, having a mentor, having a group of friends where you're allowed to fail and trying your thing, for example. Because it's not just the Philippines that there's a crab mentality. The world is like that. And for example, for people that want to get into podcasting, for example, right? Like maybe they are afraid that no one's going to watch their podcast, but you have to be around people that say, no, keep going.
Correct.
And that's the reason why I love entrepreneurship, why I love working with entrepreneurs, because there's such a freedom of failure that it's okay. Now, when you get venture capital, it's a different story, but at least among friends and founders.
Nope, you can't have
failure. And then what ends up happening is once you fail enough, I cannot stress enough that we all have to find our own superpower.
Yes.
And everyone is different. Everyone has something that is not categorized in math, science, social sciences, economics, like we learn in school, right? There are these gray area fringe type of personality skill sets that you only get by working and constantly analyzing yourself and having a feedback loop of great people to go, you're pretty good at this.
Yeah.
And it could be something really random. Like, you know what? You're really good at having conversations at dinner. That's an amazing skill.
Yep.
Can you imagine how many deals you would get? You know what? Like, it's like you're really good at chess. Like these are really interesting for you. You're really good at engaging. Ron is an amazing guy at engaging people, making them feel comfortable. That's an amazing skill. But where would you have learned that in school? Where would you have learned that in an office job? Not to say that not an office job, but where would you have learned that? You only learn that by putting yourself out there, having tons of failure. And people saying to you that, yeah, you could be better. And then eventually it's like, you know what? I'm pretty damn good at this. I'm actually world class at this.
Correct.
And then you double down and you double and double down over and over and over again. So that's something that I think, that's what I
totally agree. And your environment is such a big factor. To how you nurture that, 100%. Right? And if you stay in an environment, let's just say where the norm is, hey, don't do that. What you hear is a no instead of a yes. Even if you're trying to really have that own push within yourself to like, hey, I want to do it, but everybody says no. Then eventually do that. So that's why it's important also that you go out and find these people who have been there, who will tell you the outcome of what that would be like as we go. Now, before we take our first break, I want to understand. So I'll just go back to your journey again. You've been around the world, KTM and all these things, but how did that lead you back to Asia? Because again, the biggest catalyst aside from that seminar with your Tito was you went back to the Philippines and you said, I belonged, right? Walk me through the journey back home. Right? Why did you want to go back where out of our Phil-Ams and Phil-Canadians, and this is what I've observed. There's several types, but generally, second generation Phil-Ams, Phil-Canadians, like the Rolands of the world and whatnot, right? When they encounter Filipino culture, it just gravitates them back. And you see the outcome because they have a world-class POV, world-class excellence. They bring that home. Great things happen.
Right.
But there's also that trope of Filipinos worldwide who refer to the Philippines as back there. It's like it's a place that they will never come back to. And that's sad because there's a lot of them who are super ultra competent to solve the problems that are here, but nope, I ain't coming back. So God. What brought you back?
Oh, it's a big one because this is actually a passion of mine, actually. And thank you for asking that question. I would argue that it's gotten better, but the latter statement back there is more of the prevailing thought. So let's just try to dissect a little bit the Philippine diaspora, as I call it, right? You know, in the 80s and 90s, there was civil strife. There was a lot of things going on here in the Philippines. Immigration laws in America, in Canada, in a bunch of different countries were much more relaxed than they were now. So it made natural sense. And Filipinos being one of the most, and I really mean this because I'm not just being Filipinos. I've really encountered a lot of different cultures and met a lot of different people all around the world. Filipinos are probably the most adaptable, without question. This is one thing, this is our superpower, is adaptability. So you had this gigantic drive of Filipinos entering into Canada, to Australia, to the US, and seeking for a better life. Okay, and when they get to Canada or America, my parents and every other Tito and Tito that's out there,
Yeah.
they had to work very hard.
Yep.
And Filipinos are extremely hardworking people.
Yeah.
And when push comes to shove, and you're in a new society, and you may have been an economist or an
Yeah.
accounting in whatever university in the
From here.
Philippines,
Mhm.
yeah. And in America, now you're whatever it may be, a mechanic or whatever, which is nothing wrong with that. And these families have created, and you look at the Filipino communities in Canada, they're doing very well. You can
Correct.
look at any statistics showing that Filipinos are probably some of the highest paid of all the ethnic groups in America and Canada, actually, for this
Wow.
exact reason. And we found our niche. We found our niche in nursing. We found our niche in, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So that hard work basically creates this, like, we have to keep what we have, basically, right? And the Philippines, to these Filipino-American or Filipino-Canadian parents, is like, yeah, the Philippines, yeah, we left for a reason, and we want to go back because our family's there, we want to help, et cetera, but it's a vacation place because we settled here in America. So what does that do then to a Canadian or Filipino or American child? It shows them like, okay, well, do I have to go back? I'm already going to a good university. The path that I'm laid out because my parents taught me to work so hard is to go into banking, go into nursing, become a doctor, whatever it may be. And as a result, you have this weird, call it conflict within yourselves. You know that you're ethnically Filipino.
Yeah.
But it's like, what if I go to the Philippines? What am I going to do there, basically, other than spend money? Go to Boracay, whatever. Right? That's just the reality. So I would argue that 9 out of 10, maybe not more. Let's say 7 out of 10. Really, it's like, you know what? It's nice to know that the Philippines is there. Maybe 2 or 3 are curious, and 0.5 to 1 are like me, who are more like sea turtles, right? That want to come back and go like, let's do something here because I'm tired of hearing that this place is this, it's that, it's whatever. Let's make it better.
Correct.
Basically, right? And you have to understand, Filipinos, we're adaptable, right? We're adaptable. So you meet Filipinos in Canada. You grew up in the suburb, you're going to be more like a suburban kid. You grew up among listening to rap, you're going to do that. We're just so malleable, basically, right? And the other function of this is when we think, so Filipino-Canadians or Americans, when we think about the Philippines, it's not always how I see it, how we see it. It's TFC on Sunday. Right? It's true though.
It's ASAP or
so then we think about this and go, okay, imagine now you're watching NFL, basketball, whatever, and then all of a sudden it's like TFC. Nothing wrong with TFC. I'm just saying that, like, you know what I mean? Like this is the
pep.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you're thinking like, this is the Philippines? You know what I'm saying? So there is an emerging thing where we're going to have more heroes for sure to make people want to go back without question. And of course, business and so on. So for me, it was 100% about when I saw, like anything else, I saw potential. I saw things that I can do, I can grow, people I could meet. And I just fell in love with it. I really did. And for me, having lived in all these places, I still want to live here. I love the Philippines, I live in Singapore as well, but Philippines, so yeah.
Right. I love it. And I thank you for giving that perspective. And now it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Why, again, there's Pinoys who are, who are now in the diaspora.
Correct.
Who still refer to the Philippines as home.
Yeah.
And want to participate in solving problems here. And there are Filipinos who are already in the diaspora, but they say it would be arm's length into it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Totally understand, because life is hard here. Everything is hard mode. But again, if you find your niche, there's a lot of opportunity.
So I just want to say, like, this is for me like a super passion. Like I really, really care about this thing here. We can go deeper into the economics of it actually. But if I were to have a internal mission for the rest of my life, will be for this, is to find a way to bridge this diaspora. So shout out to all the Phil-Ams, the Phil-Cans, all the OFWs outside. Come home. There's so much to do here. We just got to find a way to make it work. Right. You know what I'm saying? So
all of you guys who are raised on Bebot. Bebot. Admit it, like I say that. Filipino. All right, now let's take our first break, and when we come back, we will now talk about the journey of Julian, of how he was able to turn all of this amazing superpowers to become a VC, an angel, and everything else in between. But let's talk about that more after the break. Hey hustlers, are you a busy entrepreneur juggling a ton of tasks while trying to keep your finances in check? Thinking of raising money from investors or lenders but have no idea how to start? Well, you are not alone. Managing business finances is tough. But don't worry, I got something for you. Introducing One CFO, the leading fractional CFO service and technology provider for SMEs, startups, and scale-ups in the Philippines. Whether you need help with financial management, fundraising strategy, or scaling up operations, their team of top-tier CFOs and their game-changing CFO tech platform have got you covered. And they're legit because I've heard about them from a lot of YC startups actually that got founded in the Philippines, because they've helped a ton of VC-backed startups, scale-ups, and some of the best SMEs in the country reach new heights. One CFO is your strategic financial partner, providing the insights, guidance, and the tools you need to make smarter decisions and drive growth. Plus, they offer personalized support tailored to what your business needs, no matter the size. And what's the best part? It won't break the bank. One CFO services are affordable and accessible to businesses of all sizes. So if you're ready to level up your business and finances, what are you waiting for? Schedule a free CFO consultation with One CFO. Visit onecfoph.co today. That's onecfoph.co today to get your free CFO consultation. And we're back from the break. We are still with Julian Legazpi, that told us the amazing journey he did as Mr. Worldwide. Pitbull, Pinoy Pitbull, really going around the world, understanding and building confidence and competence along the way.
Yep.
But again, it brought him back here. I love it because you wanted to play an active part, making things better and be a bridge towards the diaspora. That it's not that bad. There's a lot of opportunities here.
Tons.
But of course, it has to come into the right timing, right execution, and also the right play.
Right.
It's hard to just throw yourself back here without any footing per se, and get that done. So I want to understand, because when I met you, you were not fully back yet. You're here every, I don't know, couple months and whatnot, but you played an active part. And when I met you, the how I already knew who you were was an active angel.
Yeah.
Right? You're already involved in several startups, and also having an active participation as an operator.
Yeah.
Right? How did that happen? Because walk me through that journey, and why did you decide to also not just help verbally, but also put your money where your mouth was?
Well, so after 2019, I left my job, basically, right? So before that, I had dabbled in small startups here and there, trying to build things on the side. Nothing anything major, basically. And 2020, it was crazy because I was working on this business in Singapore, a lot to do with manufacturing and so on. And I thought to myself, this is going to be an amazing decade. I finally jumped into entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And it's like I left an amazing opportunity.
Right.
It was in whatever. I'm living in Singapore, a very expensive place. Yep. But you know what? We're going to make it happen.
Okay.
And then COVID happens. So funding dries up. My employment pass in Singapore, blah, 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 blah. All these things. I just said, what the fuck did I just do? This was a disaster. But, and it was the first kind of hello moment in entrepreneurship. We had to figure out how to raise money. And we ended up raising quite a bit of money in that particular business. And I before that, had already got involved with Packworks. It was one of my very first companies that I ever started. And shout out to Iba, Bing, Hubert, fantastic entrepreneurs, doing really well. I don't want to talk my book here, but doing really well. But that was really cool. And then eventually I met a group. My co-founders now in Infi Group and Venture Capital. And we built what we have now, basically. It evolved into kind of amalgamating a lot of our interests in different businesses and putting it all together, and then creating what today is Infi Group.
Right.
And from there, at the same time, we had the opportunity to get involved in two funds, Aurelian and Altera Ventures, two pretty great funds, mid-cycle, which you know very well because Nirmal, who's also one of my partners, met you and got to talk to you about Pocket FM and to help with Syria. And that's when we started talking again. It's like, you have a new model, and that's kind of how it is now. And then here we are.
Ah, that's amazing. So now I want to zoom in because, again, you have to build conviction. The fact that you put your own money says everything about this. Sure. Because a lot of people would probably give advice, but on an arm's length POV. And, advice is cheap. right? And everybody has a bias towards advice.
Yeah.
I know this as an old fart, knowing because before I was like, oh my God, when somebody gives me advice, I thought that was a holy grail. And especially if the advice is conflicting with other people's shit, it's very confusing, right? Like, what the hell? Who am I? He says this and I said that. Now I take it with a grain of salt. But it's totally different when somebody says, there's the advice, here's a little bit of runway for you, go get it done, but you do you. That's the point. So I want to now understand your POV. What gave you conviction? Because a lot of people, especially if they do start doing well in life, they want to protect their nest egg.
Sure.
Right? It's like getting that rebound that took you so many times to attempt. But here you are deploying capital.
Yeah.
As not just an angel, but eventually pulling other people's capital to deploy on others. So that's the more scary.
Oh, it is.
It's no longer just your money, right?
You know, I'll be 100% honest. I'll keep it 100 basically.
Yeah, let's do it. Keep it 100, baby.
It really was just the itch that I wanted in entrepreneurship, that I needed to get involved, and the only way I thought I could get involved was to, put my money where my mouth is, basically. And I think somehow that, I don't even want to call it insecurity or like of not being an entrepreneur. It's like led me to this a very, very expensive way of some people will buy fancy cars or whatever. I want to be an entrepreneur, so I put money into businesses that potentially a lot of them really didn't make money, and I lost a lot. But everyone's got to start somewhere. Right. Everyone has a basic, but from there you start to realize that the first few ventures, like how difficult it is to build a business, and you start to like, if I keep investing, like I'm going to lose all of my money if I don't actually make these businesses work. So you get more involved, you start to learn, you start to have fundraising, and you treat it like your own baby, right? Yep. And you start to learn in many ways. Again, like in life, you have to. Rejection is for me important. You can't calculate everything. I really believe that. I gained a lot of experience in operating, building, fundraising, admin, everything, while being an investor. Right. And that taught me so much about the inner workings of a company. And now when I look at businesses now, 5 years later, having lost a lot of money, maybe a little bit here and there, like I see what's going on now. Yeah. I didn't take the typical venture capital route as, a lot of these, there are methodologies. It is a form. It is one of in the capital stack of finance. Yep. Go to school, go to a great school, become an analyst, you learn how to value business. I didn't do that. I mean, I understood that. I understand how to invest, and I always have been an investor all my life, and especially in equities and so on. But I learned the startup way the hard way. Oof. Right? The hard way. Like, and we were talking at the very beginnings of all those meetings we had about what to do and how to do this, and you start to develop your own thesis of what works. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm quite confident in the things that we're doing now, is because I've seen it. I've been in the shoes of the entrepreneurs. I've interviewed hundreds or maybe even close to 1,000 different startups, basically all around the region. Maybe not 1,000, quite a few, a lot of companies, basically. And you start to see the patterns, basically. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you got to put in the work.
That's it. Yeah. I love it. So now what I want to understand is, obviously you've seen it all. Yeah. Right. And you see all these founders, these startups, and you start recognizing a pattern. Yeah. Right. And VC and investing is all about building conviction. True. At the end of the day, it's still a gamble. Yeah, yeah. But it's an educated and mathematically sound guess. Mm-hmm. But on the qualitative side, obviously there's the quants, right? That you're going to have to math it out, do a VC math, angel math, whatever thing that you're doing. But on the qualitative side, what traits do you look for in founders that you decide to support or, say, vouch for?
Oh, man. Especially in early stage, seed to even Series A, it really comes down to the founder or the founding team. I think that's the single most important thing you can do to build a business. And again, taking the kind of rich dad, poor dad analogy, I've met a lot of founders or I've been involved with founders that will fold when things go bad. And nothing wrong with that. It's just everyone's built different. But it's funny you mentioned that, because whenever I talk, and I really mean this, and I don't want to hype up your ego, but whenever I talk to anyone about this, I talk to a startup or I talk to someone I'm mentoring or whatever, I say, there is this type of founder who will fold under pressure, and I have a few of those, and which won't name names, but I will always gladly say, there is one founder that just simply doesn't die, and that is wrong. And I really mean that because, you know,
We're already dead. Just
you've
we're
died.
undead.
No, I really
Just
mean that.
kidding.
Like what this guy has gone through, you know, and I don't want to bring it up. We lost a dear friend and co-founder in Joseph over COVID. He lost your biggest client, you know, dropping 80 or 90% in revenue.
Yep.
And somehow, I keep telling this, I think the greatest compliment I can give you is you're a cockroach, bro. Like you just don't die. And I look at that and I go, you couple that with what are the other things that are important? Scalability and market size. I think at the very beginning, if you can just put those three things together, you pretty much have a recipe and then a little bit of math here and there for a seed investment, basically. If the market size is big enough, and if this guy or this team or business or product can scale into this market, because the market could be huge, but there's a million competitors, no way to scale, then it's not a good business. But if the market is huge or not that big, and there's a way to scale it, fantastic. Now, all of that has to be done by the founder and the founding team. So when looking at P&A or other investments, it's like, is the market big enough? Okay, should be pretty interesting. Can they scale in? A little bit of competition here and there, but man, that founder is good. And at the end of the day, I'm going to back that guy all the way. Even if it means I have to, if it's sweat equity or if it is direct equity or whatever it may be, you want to be involved with that and ride that thing. So for me, it's, and you know, it's interesting, right? Like, you know, this vintage of founders. I mean, venture capital in Southeast Asia is quite new, especially here in the Philippines. There's not a very, very big industry. So I would even argue that really the vintage of, at least let's talk the Philippines, because the Philippines is a little bit less developed than some of the other most of the Southeast Asian countries. It really started not so long ago. Maybe like only like couple and like raw startups, not like, you know, a startup like a Lazada coming to the Philippines and, you know, hiring a team, a co-founding team. I'm talking about like a P&A. It started in the late 2010s. Like, honestly, it really
2013. I was here. 2012.
Something like that. Like, and it kind of really hit a bit of a stride in 2015 onwards. So those vintages, if you look at venture capital, a 10-year life cycle, they were being funded around that time. So it's a very new stage. So you really have this founder that doesn't have a lot of experience yet. You have these founders are still one-time founders because they're still in that startup.
Correct.
So when money was flush, basically, everyone looked good. Everyone was a CEO, right? How many times we talked about before? Like everyone is a CEO of a company for whatever. Nothing wrong with that, but everyone is a CEO. And now, no one's a CEO. But this shows you where the market is. You see what I'm saying? And like this is the time now where you really see the grit of founders, and the best time to actually really see the shakeout and who's going to stay and who's not, and also educates and podcasts like this and some. I want to do more advocacy in this too, is to show that it's not so easy. When money was flush in the 2020s, it just meant because there was a lot of capital that venture capital had to deploy. It's as simple as that. It's not because your business is good. It's because
interests were hella low.
They were zero. All right. So cost of capital was so cheap. Anyway, my point is that this really shows the teeth, grit, not willing to die, not willing to fold, you know, being cooperative, you know, working with investors, working with partners, because if the founder thinks they know everything, it's also not good either. You have to have a bit of a collaborative way, and you build, and then let's see what happens. It's still an experiment. So
that's amazing, and that's again from a POV of a founder who's again a lot of us are gritty. There's certain levels to it. There's just a lot of people who are able to, you know, find ways to get it done. But grit is not a solo sport. There's no way you can be gritty and not get help. And credits to investors like you, to friends or peers and whatnot. The only way you can get yourself out of a rut and you're in a shithole. Let's just say you fell into a whole ditch and there's no way out. The only way you can get out is to get help. And that's why it's so important that when you get investors, you don't want an investor who's just going to look at it and say, oh, he's down there, and look at you while you're dying. Right? You need people who are either going to go down with you there and figure it out and, hey, how the hell are we going to build a ladder up there, or are we going to lend you a hand when you need it? And that's why it's very important that money is there. Money is always going to be money. But you want to choose investors like Julian and all the other investors in P&A that I'm always grateful. And I've been saying this for the longest time, that you want people who have an active participation in your journey, because it's never going to be rainbows and butterflies. 9 times out of 10, it's a shitty day, right? Or it's going to be a hard day. And the only way you can get it out is by getting those little favors. And that compounds, by the way. Your job as CEO or as a founder, again, if you're one of us unfortunate ones who call themselves CEO, is to maximize that opportunity.
Yeah.
The outcome you can't control most of the time, but the maximization of how you're going to be able to take care of that help,
Right.
what you're going to do with it, and being above board and doing right by everybody's help is paramount.
100%. Again, going back, Southeast Asia, when I look at Southeast Asia, generally speaking, it's still very nascent.
Yeah.
It is still very early. You cannot look at, whenever we look at venture capital startups, we think about America. We think about the US. But the US, first off, the US capital markets are just so much more advanced. Venture capital is decades old. It is a complete institution. Southeast Asia funding really didn't get to where in a formalized way through venture capital. The first big funds basically are not that old. They're post the global financial crisis, more or less 2010-ish. There were some startups in the early 2000s, but they were not many. And a lot of those in that time, there was not much capital. So in 2010, 2011, that vintage is when you start to see the first wave of businesses. And for the most part, they were copycats of American businesses. So the way I look at Southeast Asia is it's one cycle behind, not how I look at it, is actually quite factual. It's about one cycle behind what happens in America or China. Even China, I would even argue, is a little bit further behind than America. America is where the innovation begins. Southeast Asia is after. So when Lazada and Shopee were being built, or Lazada in the first case, or Zalora even further back, Amazon was already a 20-year-old company, basically, right? And it was already a mega cap business by that point already, had already gone through the dot-com bubble, et cetera, et cetera. And Lazada was just getting started. So that was like 2-3 cycles behind, basically. It's going to catch up. And whatever you see now, Uber, same thing, Grab, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's how you can kind of look at Southeast Asia. It's always about a cycle behind.
Yeah.
And the way you look at it also is that funding is about a cycle behind too, where that 2010 to 2022, that vintage, basically, those vintages were exiting in 2022, and the funds that were raised in very, very big numbers in the late 2010s, early 2020s, they're still ongoing. So the way you have to look at it is that venture capital is a 10-year period.
Yep.
And there's an investing cycle of about 3. So whenever let's say, if a new fund raises money, whatever the number may be, it has 10 years for that fund to exit that business. So if a fund, and a lot of the funds were raised 2019, 2020, they're fully deployed, but they're waiting now and venture capital, you have to understand, it is new money comes in, but it's about recycling capital constantly. The business of venture capital, of private financing, is about recycling capital. So we're in this kind of weird situation now where we're kind of in mid-cycle. People are raising new funds, but they're also waiting and seeing because of the former vintages. And the problem with the former vintages where these money were raised was during COVID time, basically, right? So, yeah.
And you're absolutely right. We have several investors in our cap table, VCs, saying, hey, you're part of our fund one. We kind of need to exit soon, because that time of what they promised the LPs, which is the real investors into the fund, is going to be happening. And correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, maybe I'm very naive here. The management fee, or basically what the VCs are being paid to manage that fund, has a shorter lifespan. Not 10 years. I think it's year 5 or somewhere in between 5 or 7. They start losing that management fee. So now everything after that comes out of pocket.
Correct. Well, it depends. It depends on the negotiation, but for the most part, you would argue that so typical funds, you invest the first 3+ years. You have to invest and you manage the portfolio for that fund, basically. And it really depends on your LPs and what agreement you have with them. Some typical management fee is 2%. For even like really, really big funds, they even charge more, 3-4%. If you're a Sequoia or whatever, I mean, you're so good, you've returned so much money that you can charge higher fees. But let's say an average fee, let's call it 2%, 2 and 20. You may maintain a fee post year 5, but it really depends on your LPs and the LP agreements you have. But to your point, that is the business of venture capital. So for those VCs, it's cash for them. It's a business as well. The business of venture capital is recycling capital, investing in great ideas, but they got to pay themselves. And if you can't raise a new fund and get new, you have to start seeing some exits, basically, right? And it is a difficult game, right? When you think about the hurdle rates, if a fund, the bigger the fund, it's actually really hard. You can think about it like it's in America, it can work, right? Like we all know the kind of the percentage splits of how you do it. But the bigger the fund, $1 billion, for example, if you make, this is very simple math, if you make somehow, you have a couple of startups that were able to 10, 20 bag the business and you're at $1 billion, that fund will take 20% of the profits of the gain after fees, et cetera, which can be a very large number, but the fees add up. And it's really difficult to get that outcome from one of, let's call it 20 startups.
Correct.
So it's a very difficult business, and why, and it has worked very well in certain places in America, China, and so on. And it comes down to vintage, conviction, and so on. So it is an interesting business, difficult business, no question about that.
Right, and their reputation is not within your control.
True.
Because at the end of the day, you're banking on the startups that you eventually build conviction or convince your investment committee to, hey, let's invest in this startup. And then now after that, it's your fingers are crossing. I hope they don't fuck this up. It's so difficult. And that's where it's very important to really understand the game from a startup founder's point of view. I meet so many Filipino startup founders here. Teams and whatnot, that they don't understand why only a select few gets funded. VCs are not are charities who are mandated to deploy cash on you.
True.
They're here to make money. There's this thing called the VC math. So if they cannot build conviction that the market is big enough for you to be able to win in it, number two, you're the type of person, you're the type of team that can actually win in this market and thrive and identify and really go from 0 to 1,000, and have the team from the get-go to actually equip and help you to get there, to give them the 10x or 100x return. Because say out of 10 startups, 9 of them or 7 of them will die, 2 would be mid or above average, 1 would be a home run.
Yep.
They're probably not going to invest in you. And it's not a knock on the startup. You're just not built for the VC model. Yeah. And especially now, where a lot of the startups that got funded in 2020 to 2023, a vast majority of us are in survival mode. Yeah. Vast majority, right? Are we bad? Maybe, I don't know, but you best believe that we're trying our best, and everything else. So, who we take along with that reputation game are the funds that also invested on us. Yeah, best we can do is not fuck it up. Yeah, right. Whatever we can control.
Well, that's another interesting discussion. I agree. It's not the startup's fault. And there's a few other things that play here too. Just generally speaking, this is just my personal opinion. Whenever we see an idea, and this is my experience, whenever I see an idea out of the US, typically, right? Everyone in the world, it's always American centric and whatever it may be. Yeah. Whatever idea it is in the US, and people think, okay, let's bring this to Asia because the big market, blah 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 blah. Let's specifically say Southeast Asia. I have to discount half everything. Because what works in America will not necessarily work one-to-one in Southeast Asia. And this is so true over and over again. If you look at Grab versus Uber, Uber got their floor wiped with them basically in Southeast Asia because Grab had a Southeast Asian model. They were more innovative. They had co-founders in different markets. They rolled up the business eventually to when Grab listed, but there were multiple little fiefdoms in each country. Correct. But that created a lot more agility for the founding teams of Grab Philippines, Grab Vietnam to create the first Gojek, the first blah, 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 blah. Uber was so late because they thought, well, our UI UX is going to be better than everyone else's. Yeah. And therefore, we're going to win in Southeast Asia. And they didn't. They were like, by the end of it, it was like a 90% market share by Grab. Uber made an amazing deal, I think, by rolling up their equity into Grab. So it ended up being good for them. But the point is that even though Uber was first, Grab was second, before it was My Taxi, etc.
Yep.
They won. And the same is true for so many other business, Amazon versus Lazada, Shopee. And if you take that same logic, it must be true then that startup venture capital must also be different.
Yes.
And there's a few reasons for this. America is a very, very big country. One single market, one population.
Yep.
Everyone speaks English, and you have a robust infrastructure that allows businesses and products and capital to flow easily, effortlessly across the country. Southeast Asia, albeit extremely high growth, Philippine GDP 6% a year, blah, 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 forever. It doesn't seem like it's ever going to stop. Indonesia, the same. 700 million people, average age 35 years old, blah, 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 under, majority population, under 30, digital, it is still 10 countries.
Yes.
Different cultures separated by water. Heavily nuanced. And there are, a lot of it are a little bit, are a lot of government issues and so on. So, and when you think about that, then you have to look at each market as the total market. And the reality is these markets are not big enough individually. That's a big issue as well, is like the idea of not being able to move cross-border, in my opinion, is one of the reasons why it's difficult to create very large outcomes in this region. And there's only really one country that can really do it, is Indonesia. And then, of course, every startup is basically a Singaporean startup by corporation, by default. But large businesses, and this is a very wide canvas, of course, but relative to the US, there's only a few winners because only few are able to either have a very big domestic idea in their respective market, or they're able to scale to other markets faster.
Correct.
Those that don't, it becomes difficult. And it then becomes difficult for venture capital companies, funds, to raise large amounts of money because if the outcome in the respective market is not big enough, then I'm going to right size my LP check to you of what I think the market will be big enough, right? And if you just take the Philippines, for example, I mean, Philippines has done pretty well. It's I think under $1 billion in money. But think about it, like how big the population is. There are only a handful of funds. They're all raising, $25-30 million funds, which in retrospect, at least in Southeast Asia, America, it's very small.
Yep.
The private equity companies, only a few of them. They're $300-400 million. They only invest in 10 ideas a year. So your pool of funding is not very big, right? It's limited to maybe a couple of ideas a year, basically. So it is difficult. And therefore it makes sense, we can talk about this later on, why startups need to, there needs to be an ulterior source of funding for, let's call it non-venture capital businesses, because we need to encourage entrepreneurs, or we have to figure out a way for startups also to expand abroad, basically. I think are very, very important things.
And that's a massive problem, especially on the other side of the fence, in the founder point of view. And this is the reason why you see the certain similar tropes of founders that get funded. Why? Okay, for example, again, by default, the Philippine market is small. The only time it's big enough is if you're doing B2C. And if you're doing B2C and you're appealing to the massa, then it's big enough. Because the likes of like the Viva Maxes of the world is able to tap into that and use that as a resource, right? But if you're doing a subsegment of that 115, 120 million market and you're targeting the class B to C or class A to B only, then it's too small.
Okay,
right?
Let's go through this then. Okay. You said B2C. I fully agree with you. It is what drives this economy. Let's take a product. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going to build a skincare product, for example.
Yep.
What multiple are you investing in on that? A 1-to-1 sales?
Yeah.
Right? What's the best multiple you could possibly get for a scalable brand of a D2C product?
Like ultimate maximizing potential?
Sure.
Probably 20?
No, I think less. Because a product business, by definition, is hard to generate a scalable multiple unless you have something that is, you have a backlog.
There's a few though, like the Sunnies of the world.
I don't know the valuation of Sunnies,
but
basically.
Sunnies is already expanding in Thailand.
Okay, but so no,
Right.
I agree with that. So let's talk about this. So for me, when I look at those businesses, this is exactly what I'm saying. This is a great sector that I want more people to go into. But would venture capital invest in a product business knowing that I have to have, it's a multiple game for venture capital.
Correct.
I need to see this company value double, triple, quadruple in value and eventually have an exit. So SaaS companies make sense.
Yep.
Pandemic, SaaS companies in America were trading at 10x multiples. Now 4, 5, but still venture capital because steady cash flows, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A Grab, it is unlimited. So you can pay 100 multiple on this because there's unlimited possibilities. But for a product, if I'm going to sell a product, a cell phone, a skincare, I am selling, it's a cash flow business. I will use a discounted cash flow methodology to figure out and discount the future cash flow of this business. And that is not, in my opinion, where it becomes difficult for those founders to get funded by venture capital. That's the problem. Venture capital needs to hit 20 to 30% IRR, more or less, in a year. That's hard to do when you're scaling a product business and the money that I'm using for product is working capital. So this is what I'm trying to say. So this is where I think the now we're talking. There is all of these entrepreneurs that maybe are discouraged because who funds that business is my point.
And on the other side, there's just not, I don't know if that type of founder, especially the local ones, can someone even fathom that scale?
Correct.
Or even have the skill set?
Correct.
To get that done. That's why the only people who are able to muster at even an attempt to get there, it's always a mixed race team. Majority of the time, it's either a sea turtle or an FM.
Correct.
Going in here, supported by Filipinos who don't see the whole horizon, because the horizon that they see is just at ground level.
Right.
But if you see, so that's why you need to tap the whole 120 mil if you're tapping B2C and hack X amount of sales, and this is what we're going to use these funds for, and the type of drunk. It's like there's several ones that I've been seeing. Like, okay, they're on the way, they're not yet there, but they see the market, like Tiger Brands, Dr. Shiba, the pet food market. My God, they're killing it.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Again, the Sunnies of the world. I've seen Colorette do it.
Fantastic brand. Yeah, fantastic brand.
How many Ninas are there from the Philippines? And this is why, as a Filipino founder, and again, it's not zero sum. Okay, if you cannot win there, the other route for you to be able to attract VC funding now is to go regional in mindset. Or at least go to the easier. For me, and let me know if this makes sense. It's actually easier to sell in the US as a Filipino company because the culture is more entrenched there. That's what we did in P&A. A bunch of our revenue, that's why we were still around. Our moat, our last moat before we could have been dead, was our service business, our SaaS business that has a service component in Pod Machine. And that was all US. Then we had to diversify and figure out how we can serve the region. Because no Filipino would pay for podcast production services here at a price that you're going to be able to feed your employees. It just won't work.
I agree.
Right? Their brands will, but you have to do the whole 9 yards to make value for them.
So I think I fully agree. And I think, the typical VC business, again, they have to be very growth oriented, ultra growth oriented. And if it's growth oriented, you have to be able to scale at a low cost of capital. Let's call it the traditional venture capital investment. A Grab able to scale to hundreds of millions of users because it's a service that they lock in, they own a monopoly basically, right? Or a SaaS business that has enterprise. You don't need a huge team. There's not much working capital because the software is already built and it's already CapExed and you're finding customers. Product, I have to build a product, R&D, inventory, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it is scalable. And I'm not saying that it's not investable, but it's difficult if you don't understand the market, if you have no experience in different places, et cetera. And therefore, I think this is one of the reasons why also venture capital is also starting to evolve, in my opinion. The merge between venture capital and private equity are kind of whatever it is. If you look in the US, and again, this is if we take the logic of things happening in America, and there's a slight lag effect in Southeast Asia. Look at what A16 is doing. Look at what Lightspeed is doing. All these big funds. They're all becoming, Lightspeed is a registered investment advisor, which means that they have a wider mandate to invest in multiple things now. They can actually invest in stocks. They can build their own businesses. They can do acquisitions. That is a venture capital company, huh?
Wow.
Doesn't that sound more?
VCPE blame.
I think this is where my thesis now of Infi, what we're trying to build, and I think we will see more of this in the future, is there's this hybrid kind of model of funding and building ventures together.
Yeah.
Because a typical VC, you invest, of course, you may get a board seat, you know this very well, you try to raise a round, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. After 10 years, they move on, they have a monthly check, weekly check, quarterly check, whatever it may be, depending on how active the investor is. Private equity, you're not going to get that check here because private equity minimum is, like 50 million. Like the Philippines is even higher in other markets. So that's for, more established businesses. There's an M&A play, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But this hybrid of venture builders, or whatever you want to call it in the future, what I call it, I think is something that we're going to see a lot more. In other words, being much more creative with capital, because there's a lack of capital right now, basically. So we have to use networks, we have to use distribution, we have to share capabilities, etc. And there's a reason why we believe we love the roll-up strategy. What we're doing in Infi, we're buying up logistics businesses across the region, finding synergies, upselling clients, and then adding businesses on top. So I think there's room for that here. And for us, what makes sense is able to help founders in these kind of niche businesses expand beyond their home market. Because as good as Ron is, who do you know in Malaysia right now?
A handful of people.
Okay. So who would you know to trust to build Podcast Network Asia there?
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you understand the rules and regulations to open up a company? And that it's a unique way of doing things there, basically. Paid up capital, opening up a bank account, and all these little things. Who is Ron going to talk to? Who is Ron going to talk to go into Malaysia?
Yeah. And do I even have a real path to win?
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
Is it even worth that attention tax?
Correct. Attention tax. I'm going to use that. I'm going to use
that. To play.
Yeah.
Or should I just triple down on where I have a clear path to win and there's nobody who can compete with us?
That's fair. And I'm not saying at all that you should not be focused on one market. You should.
Yes.
But in the time of expanding, and there are businesses that are maybe different than yours that want to expand, or maybe they have sold a lot of product business in the Philippines or in Malaysia or whatever. They maybe were first to market in the COVID time. They sold a lot of product, and then now because there's so much competition, they're kind of coming down in revenue and profit. And nothing wrong with that founder because it just makes sense. Competition is there, but now is that time for that founder. Can I expand?
Yes.
Okay, and that's what we're seeing basically. Is like, okay, we've done pretty well in our home market. How are we getting into the next market, basically?
And again, that's it. And you stack up those wins, but a lot of that will have to come from timing.
Yep.
And again, getting the right people to who's been there and done that. Because if you go there head on, we've done this in Indonesia.
Yeah, I know.
We did it in Indo.
You did it.
We did it, and then all of a sudden it didn't make sense. It hurt.
Yeah.
Right. It hurt because people got involved. We had to let people go. The cost of putting up a business in Indonesia from the Philippines in the middle of COVID.
Crazy.
Whew, right? It's hard, right? So these are the things that are hard to undo, especially if you have a short runway and you don't have a direct path to win, right? Because, like, for example, in the Philippines, the target's on our back. In other countries, you're the hunter. You're playing catch up.
Yeah, true.
Right? These are dynamics that you need to be able to understand. That inevitably you're going to have to go through that if you're not going to unlock the massive consumer business that can be in the Philippines. That's been done, by the way.
Yep.
And that's why it's so hard to unlock. But if you're going to go regional or go overseas, you have to understand the dynamics. And only people who've been there and done that. There's no perfect advice. Will help you get to strategize to get there. All right, let's take a last break. And when we come back, we will now talk about the other advice that Julian has and a deep dive on the Infi Group on how they see the bright future that is ahead with this model, this hybrid model that they're talking about. Let's talk about that more after the break. Okay, guys, quick break to thank our sponsor, PLDT Enterprise. We're all about growth here. And if you're serious about scaling your business, you need the right partner. PLDT Enterprise is committed to your success, offering fixed wireless, and ICT solutions for businesses of every size. So if you're ready to transform, check out pldtenterprise.com. That's pldtenterprise.com to explore their digital solutions for your business today. And we're back from the break. We are still with Julian Legazpi that told us the amazing POV of being a startup investor, again, as a VC, as an angel, and everything else in between. Again, we can go deep into this, and we're going to go deeper, right? Because obviously, Julian now no longer just paid the tax as an angel investor. He's now running funds himself, right? And seeing it from a point of view of someone who's already invested in really high growth startups and also looking for more. But walk me through first what you guys do in Infi Group as a institution, and what are the opportunities that you see in the very near future?
So first of all, Infi Group, as I mentioned, is a venture builder. It's probably the easiest way to term what we are.
Yeah.
It's more of it's definitely a holding company of a mixed strategy of a little bit of private equity, a little bit of venture capital, venture building, and building our own businesses, if we were to kind of put what we're doing. But the thesis around that came, again, it just happened organically. I'm also involved in a partner in two funds, Aurelian and Altira, based out of Singapore, which are fully deployed funds investing mainly in emerging Asia. So essentially Southeast Asia, India.
Yeah.
Quite a few of our portfolio companies are Indian, doing extremely well, an amazing market, honestly. People need to look more at what's going on in India. Yeah. It's incredible what's going on there. India is insane, man. There is some...
It's a whole other continent in itself, technically.
It's crazy. The more and more I dig into that, it's just an incredible potential there, really.
Yeah.
And of course, Southeast Asia, there's some great businesses, great founders. So in investing in those businesses, and these are fully deployed funds, we realized the same problem that we had now is that X business in India, for example, they want to go into Southeast Asia. Who do they know? So it came to realize that we'd start to build this kind of distribution business of what Infi Group is, and we're helping these businesses expand cross-border. Now, let's go back to what Infi is, essentially. So now that we have this kind of new mandate of taking portfolio businesses, not even from our own funds, but even other companies want to find distribution and expand, I would be happy to help expand P&A into a different market, so on and so forth.
Wait, let us get the win first.
Yeah. We'll get there, bro. Yeah. We'll get there. Infi Group started off, we essentially run 3 verticals, okay? One is in what we call InfiCommerce, one is Infi Move, and one is called Infi Energy, okay? So these are where we kind of house a lot of our businesses, and we kind of have an Infi Ventures, which kind of incubates businesses that are not fully developed yet, and we kind of leave it there and before it becomes its own vertical. InfiCommerce is where it all started. My partner, Arun, incredible guy, which you should actually meet for sure. DHL guy, 15 years, led the region, etc. We started off with this company called Amilo, which we started ourselves. And we just had a roll-up strategy. We were buying up 3PL warehousing type business, very boring businesses. And again, because these do not charge large multiples. And they're typically run by family businesses. Where the father or the mother made a really great business, took their kids through school. Kids don't want to take over the business, and now they're stuck with this business with very sticky clients, warehousing, non-tech operations. It's a perfect roll-up acquisition strategy. So we've acquired 6 companies now across Southeast Asia, and we buy their revenue, of course, right? So we've done a couple in Thailand, a couple in Vietnam, a couple in Malaysia, and we're actively looking in other markets, Philippines as well, Indonesia, etc., and Singapore. And in doing so, we also acquired in one of the acquisitions, we acquired a software house, a SaaS company. And we basically rebuilt our own SaaS platform to service our clients and abroad. We have a great logistics management SaaS business called InfiLogis, which is growing organically. It's a brilliant SaaS business. And then on top of that, we realized we have all these clients and all these products. We have 2,000 customers, like a couple hundred, almost 100 warehouses, a couple hundred trucks. That the last thing that we're missing is our own products, basically. We got to build our own businesses and work with founders to build that stack as well. And then the final layer on top of that is IP. The Infi Move business is we have interests in electric mobility. There's a really cool company out of India that we're working with. Just signed a pretty big deal actually yesterday in Malaysia, which is an AI inspection business. Amazing company. We'll be bringing this to the Philippines for sure. And then there's a couple other businesses in energy that were maybe more of a 2027 project. But the deals for this year are going to be focusing on mobility and what we call Brand Lab, which is our building our own in-house brand. So in this commerce stack,
Love it.
we have a roll-up play, a software play, and now we want to build our own brands and our own IP for distribution. And our philosophy at Infi is again, all the things we talked about, we believe in the founder is number one. So whenever we do an acquisition or we work with a founder, we will never take 100% of the business because it gives no incentive for the founder.
Yeah.
And founder is everything in Southeast Asia. We believe in local partnerships. So we really want to make sure we're working with not just that founder, but a bigger group or whatever it may be to help us navigate that particular market. So connections are very important. So to monetize those connections are very important. And then of course for us, we like things in an ecosystem. If they can play with each other in our investments to play with each other that are not, it helps compound our returns, our knowledge, and our ability to, let's say, not have to, move different ideas. So our energy businesses are very related to our mobility business. Our mobility business is very related to our commerce business across Southeast Asia. So when we find managers, founders, they're able to move across these verticals seamlessly.
Love it. So now what type of founders? Again, you mentioned founders, everything, right? Now, that very specific thesis that you already have, you can't just get a random schmuck, right? It's like looking for an Iron Man and you're trying to be Nick Fury in a very vast and diverse ecosystem. Are you looking for repeat founders here? Are you looking for corporate guys that want to become founders? What are the types of founders you need to even win in the thesis they already have in the ecosystems and the markets that you see that it's wide open?
That's a good question. It really depends on the business and the level of maturity of the business. So for example, in our logistics business, as it is not necessarily a venture capital, it's more of a roll-up strategy. We look at operator founders, really people who really understand that expertise, can manage P&Ls. Warehousing, logistics is a pretty self-explanatory kind of a business. So that's that. In our software or AI businesses, we certainly look at founders that see a bigger picture. A lot of the times what people who come to us, because as Infi Group is a kind of a hybrid, we have a lot of people that come from, they're working an X job and they want to kind of find a glide path towards entrepreneurship. That's kind of where we fit. We offer entrepreneurial roles. We help raise money for that particular business, or we invest in the business ourselves. And to give this executive entrepreneur, a way to move into that particular venture. So it really depends. The most important thing is for us, what Arun and I we talk about is always incentive alignment. We're very big on this, and always about motivation. We want a founder to be hungry, really, really hungry. It's the most important thing. And whatever that motivation may be, they may, they want something to build on their own. That can be a motivation, but it needs to be strong enough, not just to play in entrepreneurship and, try it and see what happens. I want someone who's going to be hungry, who has their back against the wall and who wants to work with us and go on this journey. So that for me is the most important thing. Hard work is something important, but we'll go through the problems together. And one thing about myself and Arun and our team is it's a very flat structure, honestly speaking. And we will be the ones with you. I will be there with you, packing stuff. I will be there with you, building your Excel model. I will be with you, selling on your behalf. I will be with you in fundraising. I will be with you to get to Ron to go. I will do all of that with you. And that's the service that Arun and I would provide in our own ways. Love for it. Sure.
No, and then you guys are proven operators as well. You've been around the world. And that's a hell of a team to be around with to create amazing products and startups, right? So that's amazing. Now, before we wrap this baby up, again, you have this mission of bringing the diaspora to the homeland, because you're the exact epitome of someone who doesn't refer to the motherland as back there. It's home. But again, the likes of you are few and far between. But what do you see for Phil-Ams or Phil whatevers around the world that are still opportunity here that want to participate? And what are you actively trying to build very soon to help bridge that gap that we see that's widening and widening?
Well, we're working on a lot of things. I mean, for me, it starts with wanting to come back to the Philippines. And the way to do that, I think, is through content. I think so. Content creators like yourself, I want to get more involved in this. We need to show that the Philippines is more than just whatever stereotype that you may think it is. It is bigger than that. It's better than just the beauty of our islands. It is more than just how cheap or affordable products are or whatever it may be. It is everything. It is home. It is where our blood is from. It is where our parents were created. It is where I want to die. And in order to do that, we have to highlight the country in that way. And content creators like yourself, we need to be talking about this as step one. I think we have to be able to show this, and I hope this distribution. And the second part, of course, is distribution. Getting this distribution in the hands of our Phil-Am, Phil-Can, Phil Australia, Saudi and Kapabayan. We have to. It's important for them to see that there is something more here. We have to be able to provide platforms to show them there are opportunities, because it is an opportunity cost. It is a jump for someone to want to leave a very comfortable place with a great job anywhere in the world. Really, it's not just the Philippines to want to come here. It is building businesses that can cross the border. Because for me, this is another business way to look at it. The Philippine GDP is what, 450 billion, 120 million people. I would argue, and I don't have the exact number for this, but how many Filipinos do you think there are in America and Canada that aren't even registered as Filipinos, like me or like whatever? It's probably millions of them. Maybe let's call it 10, 20 million Filipinos of a certain of a certain heritage. Like Jared McCain has 1%. Say
looks hella Filipino though.
Yeah, he does for sure. And take an American salary of $45,000 to $50,000 on at half of that, 10 million. It's almost the size of the entire GDP of the Philippines, and that is a diaspora.
And this is not OFW money. No, this is not the one being sent back. No, because that's a totally different trope.
Correct.
These are Pinoys working abroad, but still want to go. Will really go home.
Yes,
because they're on a contractual basis,
or not, or they're citizens of America. Is what I'm saying. And I would argue that relative to other Southeast Asian countries, relative to the population, there probably has the highest proportion of, as a percentage of Filipino diaspora outside of the country. Because remember, Filipinos are the best English-speaking. There was a civil movements in the 80s which moved a lot of Filipinos abroad into Canada or America or wherever it may be, and found their way home after 30, 40 years of building a great careers as nurses, doctors, mechanics, whatever, traders, marketing people, etc. So this huge amount of talent in California, in LA, etc. And people first have to understand this. And as a founder, for example, what are we selling to these customers in America? That's a very wealthy customer. What are these American guys? What are they doing in the Philippines? Right. So this, for me, it's about starting this. And I want to do more work with this for sure. I'm certainly going to be writing and talking about this more often, because it is something that I don't know yet what it will be. I just know that it will take a long time to do this. And I'm not going to do it myself. It's something that I think I just want to get more people to start thinking about this, because I believe that the way to unlock capital, opportunity, outside of venture capital, private equity, the conglomerates here in the Philippines, is to bring in new money and new ideas. And we have this in droves in North America. We got to unlock that. That's how I see it.
Now, I love it. Now, again, thank you very much, Julian, for doing such an amazing job. Thank you, bro, for finally getting this done.
No doubt.
Before I let you go, please invite people over if they want to work with you, pick your brains, and again, collaborate. There's so many amazing things that are going to be coming up. Where do they go and how do they do that?
Hit us up, InfiGroup.co. On our LinkedIn page, we have a couple of companies, Brand Lab, Amilo, InfiLogis, all on our LinkedIn page. Please add me if you want, anytime you want. And feel free to message me anytime you want. Whatever you need, I'm here to help. I want to talk to more founders. I want to talk to more entrepreneurs. If you want to have a coffee, you want advice, whatever it may be, I'm here. I want to support and be a part of this for sure. So
Or tacos. There you go.
tacos, we can get tacos for sure. We get tacos. Yeah, no doubt.
That's amazing. Now, again, Jill, thank you very much. But before I let you go, follow us on whatever podcast app you're listening to, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you also want to support Hustleshare and doing what we do like this, please do subscribe and help us out, because we're now in year 7 and we wouldn't make it this far if there are no sponsors like, again, One CFO, PLDT, and the likes, and Globe and whatnot. So again, thank you so much. But again, we're going to be doing this for a very long time, and we need more support that are aligned with what we do. So again, if you want to join like that, go to premium.hustleshare.com. And again, if you want to also support everything that we do, you can check out the show notes and everything on hustleshare.com. Again, Julian, thank you very much. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.